This is Stark, and in this video we will be looking at the causes of the Korean War. So at Potsdam in 1945, Korea was divided along the 38th parallel into North Korea and South Korea. Now in the north, the Soviets took control of the country, whilst the Americans took control of the south. Now the original plan was for the unified administration of the country, however the antagonism between the two areas meant that this was not possible. And despite the fact that there was only limited interest in the area, the US created the Capitalist Republic of Korea in August 1948, and just a month afterwards the Soviets created the Communist Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And in this Soviet zone, Kim Il-sung emerged as the chairman of the newly formed Korean Provisional People's Committee, which was a provisional communist government. And in this government, the Soviets did not want any form of coalition. Now Kim Il-sung had trained with Soviet troops in Manchuria and the USSR, and here he had been groomed as a potential leader in the future. He also had a long history of nationalist fighting, and he was committed to using force as a way to achieve Korean unification. In fact, Kim started the development of guerrilla action on the south to lessen the effectiveness of Syngman Rhee's regime. In fact, even before the war began, 10,000 Korean soldiers had been killed. So in order to become more powerful, Kim Il-sung also desired support from the extremely powerful other communist countries, namely USSR and China. Now, he was therefore able to persuade Stalin in helping him against the South. And in order to gain this support from Stalin, he stated that it would be a quick victory. There was already 200,000 communist supporters in the south, as well as strong guerrilla forces, and the US would not have any time to intervene. Now Kim Il-sung also used the same argument with Mao. Now Syngman Rhee was the favoured leader in the US zone, and this was made from a government from both right wing and centre. Now, like Kim Il-sung, he wanted the unification of North and South Korea, yet he was a hostile anti-communist, and he aimed to remove communism from the North, yet in order to do this, he needed the guarantee of the US for military support. Now, in late 1949, Rhee was confident that a successful invasion on North Korea could be launched. So now we're going to take a little look at the main countries involved in the Korean War, and the first country to look at is the USSR. Now as agreed in 1948, the Soviets removed their troops from North Korea, however there were still around 7,500 troops in the American zone. And at first Stalin rejected Kim Il-sung's demand for support, but he suggested to him that they should strengthen the guerrilla forces in the south. However, by February 1950, the Soviets had nuclear technology, and they agreed to give military aid and advisors to North Korea. Now, they would not give troops, however, which China would have to give. Although overall, he gave 1,600 pieces of artillery and 258 T-34 troops to North Korea. Now regarding Stalin's thinking, he believed that a united communist Korea would act as a valuable ally to the USSR, it would strengthen their borders, their economy, and would also put pressure on Japan, who is their main enemy in Asia. Now the USSR also had nuclear technology in 1950, which meant they were more confident, and if he didn't support Korea, it was likely that they would turn to China, which would lessen the Soviet influence in the area. Now, a war in Korea may lead to a direct conflict between the USSR and the US, and this meant that Stalin would, however, only offer indirect military to North Korea, as when the US did get involved, Stalin made it clear that he would not become involved due to their inferior position to the US at this point. Now, in terms of Mao's main priorities, in 1949, these priorities were mainly focused on consolidating the communist control in China against Taiwan and the nationalists, so therefore Korea was of limited importance. However, when North Korea invaded the South, China did not want to intervene, as he did not want to enrage the US. And so he wanted to place less emphasis on China's role in the West versus East, and he wanted to focus on his own priorities like Taiwan. Nevertheless, it was Truman's orders to defend Taiwan which triggered Mao's involvement in the Korean War. And many disagreed with China's involvement, as they didn't need any external distractions. So to rationalize his view, Mao argued that he couldn't allow the US to win the war, as they would then threaten China. He also believed that it was highly improbable that the US would risk using nuclear weapons, as it was so near to the Soviet Union. Finally, in order to be seen as a respected communist country, it was also essential that China was seen to be supporting their fellow communist countries, and the pressure from Stalin in November 1950 further reinforced this. So the USA were mainly focused in Europe until 1949, with its exception to Japan and the task of providing the Japanese economic strength, as we talked about in a previous video. But with respect to Korea, they were extremely reluctant allies. However, when the communists invaded South Korea, Dean Acheson believed that the purpose was to destabilize Japan and the rest of Southeast Asia. So this meant that many countries could become unsettled if there was a communist assault on South Korea, and these countries may revert to communism. This was the idea of the domino theory, that if one country turns communist, then a load of countries turn communist. Now, the US also worried that the stability in Europe might be threatened if there was a communist victory in Korea. This is why they intervened in the Korean War. So the final thing to talk about is the UN, and the UN responded to the invasion quickly, as the US requested a special session of the Security Council. And the Security Council ordered a ceasefire, which was passed without opposition. And this is because the USSR were unable to veto the decision because they had boycotted the Security Council. And they had boycotted the Security Council because of the Council's failure to recognize Mao's government, and the fact that they still recognize Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government in China. Now, as a result, Truman was able to use the UN without intervention of the USSR. And with the UN intervention, the US hoped to achieve the protection of South Korea with the use of intervention on a national scale, whilst adding credibility to the US involvement. So thank you for watching this video, hope you enjoyed it, and see you soon. Bye.